bothering you?
Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Hello and welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. This is our off-air podcast that we do on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but you're only going to get one this week because on Wednesday, we are headed off to morning show boot camp.
Bye.
Yeah, we'll be in San Diego doing all of that. But before we get our special guest on that we have today, Holly, we didn't get a chance to chat about this on the show this morning, but you are in Florida right now.
I am.
And little Debbie is smashing her way through the Tampa Bay area.
Little Debbie turned out to be Big Deborah. I'm sorry. I saw the memes. It was like, let's hope little Debbie doesn't become Big Deborah. She did. And I don't know why it is this way, but oftentimes the little nothings, like the little tropical depressions or the little tropical this, that, or the other that are out there that I didn't even know it was a thing until Friday around this time. They turn out to be worse sometimes than the hurricanes that you prep for a week for.
The category 5.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I don't know, 5, but like
Yeah, 4.
I've prepped like last season we had a hurricane come through and I don't remember, like my brain is foggy today. I didn't sleep well last night, but it was a 3, I think, or maybe a 2 when it came through. And I'm telling you, the rain and the wind that I got at my house last night was worse than that one that came through last fall. Now, I did have a hole in my roof, so that made it very difficult.
Right.
However, the weather itself, man, some of these little tropical depressions that turn into bigger things like tropical storms and hurricanes, they sneak up on you quickly, and there's not a lot of time to prepare for them. And that's, I think, what happened with old Debbie.
I've
So
seen
it's
some
been rough.
videos from some people, from friends and you and the fam that are still in the Tampa Bay area, and it just looks absolutely wild. Like Bayshore, the
God.
water's just all the way up, and people are, of
can't
course,
imagine South
kayaking.
Tampa.
Oh my
Yo,
gosh. Yes.
Don't kayak in it, please.
Like there's poop and there is snakes and animals. Like stay out.
Gosh,
Just-
I know.
It's fucking, they don't care.
No,
I know.
they
They don't
don't.
care.
Florida will always Florida when it
That's
comes
right.
to those sort of things.
Because I wasn't really worried about it either, other than the fact that I had like a slumber party for Maya going on, and I was worried about that and the aspect of a bad storm coming through. But I wasn't particularly concerned about it until I saw my tree whipping back and forth yesterday, and I was like, uh-oh.
Did she whip her hair back and forth?
She did. Yes, she did. I was like, why did we not take the swing off? Like that swing was swinging. It was really wild.
My
And it
goodness.
still is today. It's like a very slow moving thing because I think as of right now, it's moved on land. It's up in the Big Bend area, going up through Jacksonville. But in the Tampa Bay area, we're still getting bands of remnants that are still coming up through the Gulf. And I was really debating on whether or not to do the podcast today because right now, as we're literally talking, I'm looking outside. It looks like the calm before another storm. Like the sky is very dark gray, but there's no rain right now. So I thought maybe I should just leave.
Oh,
But because in about another hour, we're getting another wave of a very heavy rain and some storms.
my
So,
goodness. Well, please stay safe. And if something crazy, you need to go, feel free. We don't want you to get stuck on the road somewhere in your car.
I already looked and my route home is closed. So
Oh,
I don't know.
You could always swim.
I could get someone's kayak.
oh no. I was going to be stuck at work.
And that's what I'm like, because I was like, oh, it's fine. It's a good thing I can go to work. I don't like doing the show at home, but
Right.
they told everybody that was non-critical to stay home today. It's fine. It's fine. I
Well-
will get home at some point. So let's go. Let's get this show on the road.
Well, that is such a great intro for who we have because
Yeah.
Holly did not want to miss the guest that we have on today. Because we talk about all things on the podcast about pop culture. Also here in Charlotte, our Pride is actually in August, so it's a couple of weeks. Actually, it's next weekend. Is Charlotte Pride, and actually some Tampa Bay fan members are coming up to come to Charlotte Pride, which I'm super excited about.
Right.
But one of the things that we talk about is we're big on making sure that there is representation in different parts of when it comes to the LGBTQ community, and the health side of it is super important. So we wanted to welcome one of our friends to the show, Dr. Cramer, who is an LGBTQ doctor here in the Queen City and a good friend of mine as well. Dr. Cramer, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we wanted to sort of, before we get to like why is it important to have representation in the medical field when it comes to the LGBTQ community. How do you feel if someone doesn't say Dr. Cramer? Because I'm big on titles. I love a title. And if I had worked as hard as you did, I'd be like, you put some respect on my name and call me doctor.
I am very low key about it. I tell my nurses they can call me by my first name. Medical hierarchy is a thing, and I think that we've held on to that for a long time. But I prefer to have more personal and low key relationships. I think it makes it less intimidating to see. So people call me Dr. Cramer, Dr. Mac, Dr. McMullen. I get all kinds of names, and that is totally fine. Whatever patients want to call me.
You very nice. I feel like
we'll put respect on your name, Miguel, but
well, that's like Holly has won a Gracie Award here for the radio industry, and I'm like, anytime somebody refers to Holly O'Connor, they better put some respect on her name and say Gracie Award-winning radio broadcaster Holly O'Connor.
I should ask people to say that. I should. I should be like, I did win a Gracie.
Yes.
Like, most people are like, I don't know what that means. You don't have to. Just I won. So we're
should
all
I
good.
call you DJ Miguel?
Yeah, no, please don't. I got nothing. I got nothing on my title.
Oh, stop. Don't act like you haven't been like best radio personality in multiple years in Tampa. I'm sure you've already won something in Charlotte. Like you are like most beloved. Maybe we should most beloved radio personality of all time, Miguel Fuller.
Oh, I'll take it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Cramer, let's sort of talk through how did you even decide to become a doctor? Because I don't even really think I know you. I know you personally. I don't even think I know this story. Because I mean, that is a large journey that you decide to do. I'm going to spend the next 8-10 years of my life preparing to be a doctor. How did that whole process happen?
Yeah, so funny story. If I take it back a little bit, my mom named me Cramer McMullen because she thought it sounded like a doctor's name. So mother's intuition. We have no doctors in our family. I'm the only one.
Oh my gosh.
But I remember distinctly around age 12, just thinking that I wanted to be a doctor. I don't know what it was, but just some sort of calling of wanting to do that. Now, obviously, I didn't know the length of commitment that was going to be at that time. I was always kind of a math and science person. I always wanted to help people. And I think with those, skills and talents, it just made it easier throughout the trajectory of college, pre-medical career, and then into medical school to kind of follow that path.
Wow. And so when you were in high school and you're starting that process of like, here's what's next, were there any doubts you had in your mind of like, do I really want to take all of this on? But you just really knew this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I toyed around with the idea of engineering at one point because of the math and science piece. But I think I missed the connection with people. And I had a lot of doctors growing up. I had a history of asthma and some other medical things. And so I feel like I always had that vision of that family doc, that community doctor that and that you stay with for years and build that relationship. And that's what I wanted to be in the community. And I think growing up in the Southeast as a young gay person, I didn't see any doctors like me that I felt comfortable coming out to, talking about my health needs with. And so that once I did come out in college, that kind of served as the motivator for the trajectory of my career.
Were you nervous about coming out before that happened? And what was your sort of coming out story in college?
Oh my gosh. So I was raised like a true Southern Belle in a good Southern Baptist church. So I had a lot of religious upbringing growing up, which I think, I've had years of therapy to cope with all of those traumas. But I was definitely, I feel like kids these days are coming out when they're 10, 11, 12 years old. I was 21 when I came out toward my end of college. That was a really scary experience. I lost a lot of friendships over that. I lost some family relationships that have since been repaired. So, it was definitely a challenging time. And this was, 15 years ago. So I think we're in a much different society now, even in that short amount of time, than what the atmosphere and climate was when I was coming out.
Wow. So if you can, and if you're like, I don't want to really go there, but for the people that did not take the news well in your family, have they sort of like apologized about it since then? Or what, as time has progressed and we have, thankfully become a little bit more of an accepting society when it comes to people coming out, what has their reactions been about their behavior back then?
Yes, I mean, I think my family is several generations from the Carolinas. So, and still at the time growing up was very steeped in the culture, Southern Baptist culture and identity. And so I think that I was the first person in the family to come out. And so I think it just rocked some people's worldviews. And I always tell my patients, particularly when there are parents who aren't necessarily aligned with where their children are in terms of their sexual orientation, gender identity journeys, that, we're all on our own journey. So it took me until age 21 to figure myself out and to come out. I have to give my family members some grace because I think, it took them some time. It took them a few years to come around, but they were on their own journey. Some of the hurtful things that they had said, they have since apologized for. And I'm currently engaged to my partner. They are very welcoming and open and love him. And so all of those dynamics have changed, but it took some work and effort, I think, on all of our parts to learn and grow to be different than maybe what we were taught early on.
I really love and think that's so important is the grace part of it, is that sometimes you hope and you wish that your family will be there to have those open arms and to love and support. But like you said, you have to give them grace about their upbringing. I mean, that's why
their own journey.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why, like, my grandmother, when, she, my mom told her that I was gay, and then she finally met Abe, and it was the fact that she got him a Christmas present. And I was like, that to me spoke volumes, because she considered him a part of the family. Like, if she would have been alive, would she have come to our wedding? Probably not. But I just think the fact that, like, in her own way, she was sort of saying, I love you. I now love this person you're with, and I'm here for you. So I think that is so, so important to remember the whole grace part about that.
Yeah, I think that's totally true, Miguel. And, even this past weekend, we were at a wedding, which was a family member's wedding. And I think we were the only gay couple there. But, multiple family members coming up wanting to welcome us and take pictures and say they were so happy that we had come and were there. And that's very different than what I would have expected 15, 20 years ago as a young gay person.
Yeah.
Wow. So now you are here in Charlotte. And what's your official title at Novant Health?
Yeah, so I am the medical director of LGBTQ plus health services for Novant Health. So that spans across, we have 3 different markets and now a 4th into South Carolina. So covering that whole spectrum. And then I'm a family medicine doc most of my time here in the Charlotte market at Midtown Family Medicine.
Now, what made you want to go into that and sort of take on those responsibilities just with your daily practice?
Yeah, so like I said, when I came out, I think that served as a motivator for wanting to be a doc within this community caring for LGBTQ plus people. And when I did residency, I trained in Philadelphia at UPenn, and our family medicine practice there was a transgender center of excellence. So we had about 200 transgender patients that came to see us for care. And in those 3-4 years that I was at Penn, really learned the skill sets of caring for LGBTQ plus patients. So HIV care, pre-exposure prophylaxis or PrEP, prevention medication for HIV, taking care of transgender patients, and medically necessary hormone treatments. All of those kind of things I helped to gain, or I gained those skill sets during residency. And then from there, I moved to a practice in Columbia, South Carolina to help their family medicine department build an LGBTQ plus practice there. And just through a series of kind of coincidences, this position opened up here in Charlotte. I'm from here in Charlotte and knew I wanted to come back home. And so I jumped at the opportunity to come back in this role.
So this role was already in existence and you stepped into it because there was an opening for it?
That's right. So there was a prior doc who was here at Novant Health. His name is Dr. Rhett Brown, one of the docs who's been doing LGBTQ plus work here in Charlotte for many, many years. And he actually served as my mentor during medical school. So I did a few rotations with him in his clinic and got some training. And over my career path, I would send him periodically some updates about Here's what I'm doing. Here's where I'm at. Let me know. I knew my family's all here in Charlotte. I knew I wanted to come back. And it just so happened that as I was looking for those positions, he had just left Novant Health. So the position was vacant, and I interviewed and took the position. I will say it's pretty unique. A lot of organizations across the country do not have an LGBTQ plus medical director. There are maybe 5 to 10 that I can think of in other major cities. Though I will say that trend is growing, I think, as health systems recognize different disparities in care for different communities, and how we address those really takes strategy and planning and resources particular to those communities. So, I'm very, very fortunate to have found a role like this in my hometown.
It's really funny. I had no clue of that connection because Dr. Brown is actually my primary care physician here. So what a small world that it is. That's so cool. So if someone is listening to this and maybe they have like a LGBTQ family member or maybe a child, that's come out in their middle school or high school, what makes it so important to have someone that is a gay doctor that also themselves identifies as gay? What makes that so important? Why is that needed? Because isn't all medical issues?
Yeah, good point. I consider the doctor's office and the doctor's visit to almost be kind of a sacred space and engagement with your patient. That's the time when you're the most vulnerable as a patient with your medical provider, both for sharing maybe personal details about yourself, health concerns that you may have that you may not be sharing with anyone else, what your relationship life is like, sex life is like, and things like physical exam and testing, and all those things are very vulnerable encounters. So you need a space where you feel safe and comfortable disclosing that information to a provider who understands you. And there, unfortunately, are many offices and experiences that I've heard of where patients have shared information and felt judged or discriminated against or misunderstood. I had that experience growing up when I first came out and was looking for PrEP medication. And I had to go to my doctor's office. It had been my family doc for a long time, but he knew nothing about it and had to teach him about my own medical care and my own needs. Oh. And I hear patients all the time come to me and say, I asked my doctor for PrEP. They said, oh, you don't need that. You're not gay. Or, you don't need this type of testing. All of those things that just shut patients down, and then they're not getting the care that they need. And we know from the research, whether it's LGBT communities, Black and Brown communities, really any minority group, when they're cared for by providers who understand them culturally and are culturally sensitive to their needs, they get better health and better health outcomes because of that. So, not everyone needs an LGBTQ doctor, just if you're LGBTQ, but it can be very helpful. And there are things that we sometimes will recommend, understanding those needs that other providers might miss.
It's true. I mean, one of my doctors I had in my 20s when Holly and I lived in Panama City was this very sweet older woman, Jo Ellen.
I was just about to say Jo Ellen.
Jo Ellen, she was very sweet, but this was in my single days. And so there would be issues that I would have to go see her about that I would be like, ooh, I don't know if Jo Ellen's going to be like, this Miguel, my God, you are just so much. But there was that difference. Whereas when we moved to Tampa, and I always have to give a huge shout out to Dr. Kush Patel, who a lot of people in the Tampa Bay area go to. He was my doctor, Abe and I's doctor for a long time, and he's gay himself. And there was just this immediate comfort level. Like as soon as I walked in, and he was like, "Girl, so tell me about your story. Like, who are you? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Okay, I can like be honest and tell everything," because there was that level of comfort, and especially when I was in my,
wild time.
When I was in my whole phase.
Okay,
and so there would be a couple times that I'd go and talk to him and to be like, okay, listen, when this happens, do this. When this happens, and I was like, I would never have this conversation with Jo Ellen back in the day. As nice and as friendly as she was, that was just too much. Yeah. So what sort of relief do you see from your patients when they're like, oh, I've never had a gay doctor before?
Yeah, I have patients all the time who come in and tell me about those negative experiences that they've had, or even if it's not a negative experience, just their own perceived fears around sharing that information. And you can tell just a sense of relief. A patient really feels a lot more relaxed when they feel like they can share that information with me in the practice. And I think we've done a bad job historically in medicine of normalizing a lot of behaviors and a lot of testing. So like I tell patients, anywhere you have sex, you can get an STD. So let's test you everywhere. And a lot of patients aren't used to that. And we talk about certain vaccines and medication. I mean, look at the Mpox outbreak a couple years ago. I think LGBTQ affirming doctors were really the ones that leveraged the resources to deal with that epidemic that we were seeing. So, I think we serve a really unique space for the community and can be really helpful for patients.
Now, when it comes to PrEP, because I love being able to talk about that, because some people still don't know that this is a resource and that it's out there. Can you describe for us, Dr. Cramer, what is PrEP? When, in the gay community, we talk about it all the time, but for some people, they don't know.
Yeah, so PrEP, what PrEP stands for is pre-exposure prophylaxis. What that means is preventive medication before you get HIV to help prevent you from getting HIV if you're exposed. The medications we have now, there are 3 options on the market. They're 99% effective at preventing HIV when taken correctly. 2 of those are pill medications. 1 of those is an injectable. We offer all of those here at our clinic. I know Dr. Brown's clinic as well also offers those. But really an effective tool at preventing HIV. And one of the reasons we've seen over the past decade rates of HIV infection declining in the US. So we have people living longer with HIV because of novel medications, but we have less people getting infected because of these prevention medications. And PrEP is not just for LGBT people, although we know historically that gay and bisexual men and transgender women are at higher risk for exposure of HIV. Anyone is eligible for PrEP. So, you mentioned a hoe phase. If anybody's in their hoe phase, if anybody's had an STD in the past, if anybody's worried about getting HIV in the future, or maybe has a partner who's HIV positive on their medication, these medications are eligible. You're eligible for these medications as well.
And there's another pill, correct? It's kind of like an after pill, which I just heard about. What is it called? It's not Oxy, obviously, but it's Oxy.
Yeah, not oxycodone. Please don't forget. Doxycycline medication. It's an antibiotic we've used for a very long time to treat some sexually transmitted infections. Many people might be familiar with it from acne treatment. We use it often for acne.
Been on there several different times in several different years. It's fine. So I was like, oh, that old thing.
That old thing. We now have a new purpose for it. Really a pretty safe medication in terms of side effects. But it's kind of the morning after pill for gay, bisexual men and trans women. It reduces the risk of other sexually transmitted infections like gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis by about 60% if you take 2 tablets within 24 to 72 hours after intercourse without a condom. So really a newer strategy within the past year that is available to patients, again, who might be in that hoe phase, that want that added layer of protection from STDs.
Holly, you could have been using it the whole time.
The whole time. I mean, maybe that helped. I don't know.
Holly had no clue. She was one of the first test subjects for it.
Got my data.
Now, Dr. Cramer, as we close out with you, what do you think is the biggest obstacle when it comes to LGBTQ health and reaching out to like different communities that may not have access to medical stuff? Because I remember at Dr. Brown's office, there have been a couple of times where I've had bouts of dealing with high blood pressure, and they're like, well, maybe it's a white coat syndrome thing, which I had never heard of. And so things like that. What do you think is the biggest obstacle that you're facing when it comes to LGBTQ care in Charlotte?
Yeah, that's a great question, Miguel. I think a few things. I think all of us since COVID and nationwide have really seen an increase in anxiety, depression, mental health outcomes. I know today's current political climate also lends to that as well, but I think we have we don't have enough providers in the mental health space that specialize in LGBTQ plus care. And I think that intersection can be really important when people are the same thing we talked about, having a primary doc who understands you, having a mental health therapist that understands you and can help with those issues is important. At Novant, we do have some who are affirming, so I am able to refer patients there. I think that's one of the big issues. I think secondarily, we still have a lot of communities, even within Charlotte, who just don't have access to healthcare because of things like insurance, employment, and just access to resources. Things are really expensive right now. Groceries are expensive, healthcare is expensive. And so patients being able to access and afford healthcare and be able to have access to medications like PrEP and Doxy, like we've talked about, can be challenging for sure.
Is there anything that someone can do to help the situation? Is it like referring someone they know that is in need of medical care? Or is this just something that as a industry, it has to sort of like work itself through?
Yeah, many of the health systems here in Charlotte, Novant in particular, has a charity care option. So for patients who might be underinsured or uninsured, that allows patients for a 6-month span of time, and then they can reapply to be able to receive services here at Novant for free. We have a few different clinics in the Charlotte area and in our other markets as well, where patients can get that care. The health department does great work. We partner with them a lot too. And there are a few different grant options through community-based organizations for people to get access to care. So if you do know people who are trying to get care that are unable to, please have them look into Novant's charity care or reach out to me, and we are happy to get them connected to care.
Love that. And how can people find you on social media, if that's public, or your office? How can people get into contact with you if they're like, I want to see you as my doctor, or refer someone to you?
Yeah, great. If people are interested in seeing me in my practice, they can contact Midtown Family Medicine. Our office number is 704-384-7980. If they need to get in touch with me, my email is first.lastname@gmail. And I'm happy to get patients connected if they want to reach out. I won't share my socials because they're not work appropriate, but
I was gonna say, like, you can't be sharing out. Like, do you have your doctor's social, Miguel?
Well, no, that's why I said I don't know if it's because I know his social media, but that's why I was like, I don't know if that's for.
I don't have my name on my social media, so
right.
I had a doctor Twitter at one point, but I never used it. So I need to up my game on that. I'm a little bit, millennial, not Gen Z. I'm a little behind on all the TikToks and things.
See, now that would be an interesting TikTok for you, is to talk about some of the health issues and stuff like that you see in the LGBTQ space. So that might be something you take on in the new year.
Yes, I have been giving that a lot of thought. So more to come, hopefully.
Love it. Well, Dr. Cramer, thank you so very much. As we're sort of gearing up, people are starting to put all the Pride stuff back out, because that's the weird thing about being in Charlotte, is that we put it out for June and then we pack it away for July and then we put it back out for 1 week in August. So
it's been the hottest month of the year for us to be.
We're real smart like that. Well, Dr. Cramer, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thanks for having me. Take care.
You
Bye.
too. All right, Holly, how's the weather looking out there?
Gray. Wait, I'm gonna pull up my app. I didn't obviously look at it while he was speaking, so I don't know. Kelvin taught me a new thing about the Apple weather app, which is that I can tell you when it's going to start raining.
But yeah, I loved Dr. Cramer. He's so fun and so friendly and so accessible. And him and I have spoken on a couple of different panels with LGBTQ stuff for different businesses here in Charlotte. And he's so knowledgeable, but he's also just so humble. And he's just very
really
accessible.
Down to earth.
Right. Absolutely. And him and his fiance are super, super sweet, nice people. Love them to death. So I'm glad that he took the time to do that for us. Yeah. So how's it looking?
It's gonna rain. I mean, it's raining now, and it just says it's like we're in it, the thick of it. Like 11 a.m. is 100%, 12 p.m. is 95%. Goes down to 50%, but just the day today is going to be raining. So I'm just going to get my umbrella and just go.
Do you think you'll be able to do this, get to work tomorrow?
Yeah, everything is supposed to be ending today. I mean, hopefully, I do always keep up with Paul Delgado, who of
Mm.
course is Tampa Bay's #1 meteorologist, in my opinion.
Mm.
And so he said that things should be resolving overnight tonight, but it's taking a long time for everything to get through, I guess. I don't know. This whole day is going to be soggy.
Let's see. Amy Gordon said, Big Debbie's heading your way up here to Charlotte, I think till midweek.
Yeah.
Still super windy and pouring off and on here in Pasco County. Mary Lewis said, we're flooded here in Apollo Beach, but I'm not complaining because I love my home in this area. We knew before buying on the water there would be high waters here. And then Jody said there's a car submerged up to the windshield in my neighborhood. Whew, so please be
That's
safe.
a lot of standing rain. So I'm gonna go find a new way home because my road's blocked.
Exciting.
Yes.
Exciting.
Right.
New and fun adventures.
Oh gosh. Well, please be careful, Holly.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you all back here next week.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored.